Hello and welcome back. This is part 2 of the Frequency of Becoming series, where we explore how our state is the root of how we experience our reality. So in the last video we looked at how our state of being comes before the thoughts that we think. So whatever state we are being in that now moment is what attracts in the types of thoughts that we have access to. And that's what we explored in the last video. And today I'm just going to take it a little bit further. I'd like to talk about how our state actually doesn't just influence our thoughts, but it actually shapes the way that we experience our lives. And once I truly understood this, something really huge shifted. It helped me to stop trying to control every thought that appeared in my mind and instead become curious about them and curious about what state was underneath these thoughts that was generating the experience I was having. So it's a really empowering process to go through. It's a really empowering thing to understand, and very simple to understand too. And today we're going to move into looking at how the brain and the nervous system work and the different things that are involved in kind of creating the state in the first place. I also have been working with a few clients with this, and there's one client in particular who has been practicing this technique. He's somebody who's suffering from anxiety in lots of situations and has been practicing this state and has had amazing results, responding differently in situations where he would have normally been really anxious, not avoiding things that would have normally made him really anxious, and has actually thought, he did admit at the beginning, he said, I did think that this technique was a little bit woo-woo, but it seems to have really worked. He even explained it to a co-worker, and the co-worker actually said, yeah, makes complete sense, which surprised him because he thought he'd just dismiss it. And actually it does make complete sense when we understand how the nervous system and the brain works. So if you're ready for part 2, I'd love for you to follow along, and let's begin. So this is episode 2 of The Frequency of Becoming, why your state shapes everything you experience. So just for a moment, I want you to imagine that you've just put on a pair of blue tinted glasses. And everywhere you look, the world appears blue. The sky, the trees, the people that you meet. Nothing out there has actually changed. The only thing that's changed is the lens through which you're seeing it. So I want you to think about your inner state working in a remarkably similar way to putting on a blue pair of glasses. Because we often assume that life is creating the way that we feel, and we are at the effect of what's happening around us. But actually, it's the other way around. The way that we feel is shaping the life that we experience. Our state becomes the lens through which we interpret everything. The conversations that we have, the opportunities that we notice, the stories that we tell ourselves, the thoughts that we have that naturally arise. And if we wake up feeling anxious, the world looks like it's a world full of problems to solve. If we wake up feeling grateful, the very same world somehow feels full of possibilities. The circumstances are identical, but the experience of them is completely different. So that's why I believe one of the most empowering questions that we can ask ourselves isn't what do I need to do today to get ahead? It's who am I being as I move through my day? So we're going to do a simple practice to shift your state. So this is how to actually shift your state, and it's incredibly simple. It's one I've used with clients for many years. I first learned this technique about 2011, so many years ago, when I did my neuro-linguistic programming course, or NLP. And in NLP, it's called anchoring. You may have heard of it. Traditionally, what you do here is you link a positive emotional state to a physical touch, such as pressing 2 fingers together. And you anchor that feeling into those fingers, and then you recall that feeling later by pressing those fingers together. But we don't need to do that. We're going to do something a bit simpler today. We're not going to anchor it into a part of the body, but instead we're going to learn how to consciously learn to create a more resourceful state whenever we need it, in any moment. So simple. And the beautiful thing about it is the more you practice it, the easier it becomes. So, step 1, becoming the observer. And you can obviously do this anytime, you can observe your state at any time, but I suggest you start by doing this in the mornings to start with. So tomorrow morning, before you reach for your phone, before you get out of bed to go to the loo or do your teeth or start to kind of get ready for the work or whatever you're doing in the day, even before you open your eyes, just start to become curious and ask yourself, what state have I woken up in today? Don't judge it, don't analyse it, don't try and change it, just observe it. How does your body feel? Is there tension anywhere? Is there pain anywhere? Does your breathing feel relaxed or shallow? What's the emotional tone of your morning? What's the emotional tone of your energetic state? Is there a calmness, a heaviness, a hopefulness, anxiousness, excitement? Then just begin to notice the thoughts. What kinds of thoughts are arriving naturally? Notice if they're encouraging, or are they critical? Are they busy? Are they worrying? Are they flooding in with things you've got to do? Just simply observe. Because awareness is always the first step towards change. You cannot consciously shift something that you haven't first brought to your awareness. So step 2 of this is choosing a different state, a bit like choosing a different outfit. So in order to do this, I'd like you to think of a moment in your life where you felt just genuinely wonderful. You felt great. It doesn't have to be a dramatic thing. It doesn't have to be, something absolutely amazing, but it can just be a memory that you just felt really good. Could it be when you were on holiday? It could be holding someone that you love. It could be laughing with friends and, finding something hilarious. It could be watching a beautiful sunset. Or maybe like me, recently I've been using this memory. It might be a memory of your wedding day. But just choose a moment that just naturally makes you smile, makes you feel good. Now, we're not simply going to remember it here. We're going to imagine stepping back into it, looking through our own eyes. And from here, I want you to notice what you can see. Notice the colours, the light, notice the people around you. Notice what you can hear, the conversations, the laughter, the music, sounds of nature. Notice what you can feel. Was it warm? Was it the warmth of the sun or someone's hand in yours? Was there a sense of peace or excitement in the body or overflowing love? But just allow yourself to fully become immersed in that experience, as though you're there, right in it again. And now you can take this a step further. Once you've got that feeling, you can just really notice those subtle shifts in the body. You can then amplify that. You can times that by 100. You can make it really strong. See what you see what you saw, hear what you heard, feel what you felt, and just make it incredibly powerfully strong. And kind of just bask in that for a moment. And this works because it's not simply positive thinking. It's how our brains and nervous systems work. So when we vividly recall an emotionally meaningful experience, and this works with negative, difficult experiences as well, many of the same neural pathways become active as they did when we first lived it. You might notice that your breathing changes, it might soften, your muscles begin to relax, your heart changes, heart rate changes. You might even find yourself smiling. You might even find yourself laughing. And this is your body responding to the experience that you're creating in your mind. And that's why memories can make us laugh or cry, even many years later when we recall them, because your nervous system is responding to what feels emotionally real in that moment. So step 3 of this is to notice the shift. So you've stayed with the feeling for a few moments, you've really expanded that feeling, you've been kind of basking in that wonderful place. Now just really notice it. Notice what's changed, bringing your attention to your body. Notice how the body feels now. Has your breathing changed? What's happened to your shoulders, your face, your energy? And then notice what thoughts are arriving now. And I want you to really feel, because you will get a physical sensations within the body of how this feels emotionally. Maybe in the chest, the abdomen, the head, the throat. There is a feeling of this memory really viscerally in the body. So just really notice how different your inner world has now become. And just notice that this is you changing your state. You've changed your state. Now, you could leave it to that. That's incredibly powerful on its own, but I like to take this a step further, especially in the morning. I want you now to see your day through this new lens. So now, holding this resourceful state, keeping your eyes closed, just imagine the day that you've got ahead of you. Picture yourself doing the things that you will be doing in the day. Maybe you'll be making your coffee, getting dressed, meeting clients, driving to work, speaking to your partner, answering emails, walking the dog, whatever your day contains. But this time, just see it through the lens of this new state, almost as though you've put on a completely different pair of glasses. Notice how you show up differently. Notice how you speak. Notice how you listen. Notice how you respond rather than react. How you carry yourself. And just imagine yourself moving through your whole day in this state, this wonderful feeling state. It might be calm, confident, present, connected, whatever it is. Because now your brain is already beginning to rehearse this version of you, and it's already kind of throwing that energy out into your day before you step into it, which is so powerful. And when your state changes, as we've talked about, the thoughts available to you begin to change because you've raised your frequency. And as your thoughts change, the choices that you make begin to change. And the energy you bring to each interaction begins to change. The world hasn't necessarily changed, but your experience of this world has. So it's such a brilliantly powerful thing to do. And I suggest trying this every morning for at least a week just to see how it goes. And when you finish this exercise, don't leave the feeling behind. Just take it with you. Carry it into your day. And later on in the day, as happens to me often, if you notice yourself slipping back into a lower frequency emotion, might be a bit of anxiety or overwhelm or frustration or self-doubt, or any state that just doesn't serve you, just pause, take a breath and return to that memory, the one that you anchored in this morning. Reconnect fully with that feeling. Let your body remember how it felt then. And then over time, the more we practice this, it becomes less of an exercise and more of a way of living. Because you're teaching your nervous system that this new state is the new kind of baseline state. And it tends to be, the more and more we practice it, we just tend to naturally wake up feeling more positive than we had done previously. You're gently becoming familiar with a new way of being. And it's how lasting change happens. Not by fighting yourself and beating yourself up for not doing the things you wanted to do, not trying to control outcomes of things, but by repeatedly returning to that version of you that already exists within, that is in a resourceful state. Now, we're often taught to prepare for the day by organising our diary, have our clothes ready, and all the kind of practical things. But I really do think that the most important preparation for our day is choosing the state from which we're going to step into the day. Because your state doesn't just influence your day, it becomes the lens through which you experience your day. So I'd love to invite you to try this tomorrow morning. So before you reach your phone, pause, notice the state you've woken up in, become curious about it, choose a memory that reminds you of who you are at your very, very best, a wonderful memory. Allow yourself to step back into that awareness of that experience that you had. Really feel it viscerally in the body. Notice the changes, notice the emotions that are there, the thinking. Then imagine your day ahead through the lens of that new state, and then just see what unfolds. I'd genuinely love to hear how you get on. I've had great feedback recently from clients that have been practicing this. And if you do try this practice, just let me know in the comments, what memory did you choose and what shifted for you? I'd just love to hear. And if you're enjoying this series, I'd love for you to subscribe and to join me for next week as we continue exploring the frequency of becoming. I think in the next episode, I'm going to look at why some days we wake up feeling a bit rubbish and some days we wake up feeling great. So I'm going to look into that a little bit. So that'll be the next video. But before you go, just ask yourself one last time, who am I being right now? Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next one.